Hi everyone. This video is about creating assignments in TLearn. So the actual process of creating an assignment on the base level, pretty straightforward, but there are a lot of options that you can choose to engage with, and so I want to go through some of those because some of them kind of get lost in the shuffle, so I want to make sure that you know what all of the tools at your disposal are. So to start, we want to make sure our editing is turned on. Right now I have the option to turn it off, so we've got it turned on already. And then wherever you keep your assignments, some of you have your don't have a tab that is for major assignments, some of you have them embedded in the different units. Wherever your assignment is, you'll want to come and add an activity or resource. Now, if this is the first time that you've used TLearn since the update, you won't have the star tab yet. It'll start you off with all, but then you can click the little stars on the ones that you use most often, and it'll add it to your favorites. So we're going to add an assignment. And I'm going to say this is guest speaker response. Okay, so you can always add a description. If you do end up adding a description, I can show you what that looks like in another course of mine. So if you do end up adding a description, you can have the option to have it visible on the actual course page itself or not. So if you add a description, that's right here to display it on the course page. Also, if you have an assignment, it's always good to have just an accessibility copy of the assignment sheet. So that's where you can add this and the students will be able to access it. For availability, this is when you want to start receiving assignments. This is their due date. If you have a date past which they are not allowed to submit things, you can add the cutoff date. If you want a reminder to grade, you can add that too. I usually turn that off. So this is good for those assignments that are down the road in the semester maybe, or maybe there is a particular aspect that you're testing on within an assignment, so you don't want students engaging with it until a certain point. So if the semester is going right now, for example, I could say I don't want this to be available to students until October 15th. And then you can set the due date. If this is an ongoing assignment or something that they have the whole semester to do, you don't have to set a due date. You can leave it open, but you can also do that. Submission types. Okay, this is an important part. So online text means it will give them one of the little text editor boxes where they can write their assignment in. This is good if you are doing something like a one-time guest speaker response, for example, where they just have to write a reflection or something, or a journal entry, something like that. But you can also do file submissions, so you can do both or neither. And you can give them a certain number of uploaded files. Me personally, I just leave it at the max of 20. This is the important part, accepted file types. Now, if you don't do anything with this, you will get all sorts of file types. You will get pages files, you'll get files that you've never heard of before. So what I suggest very strongly is to limit the types of files and to articulate that both in class verbally to the students and also in the assignment sheet and instructions themselves. So for me, I go in and I always do. So if this is something where I want to be a little bit more open about how students can respond, sometimes I let them make podcasts. So I'll go in and click some audio files, or they can write to me. So I'll click those document files. If it's a presentation, you can decide which presentation types you want. If it's a video, you can decide if you want what type of video you want. but I do suggest you limit it. Don't just click all video types and let them turn in everything, because you will inevitably get something that your computer does not support. So I've got all of these different ways that they can respond to me, but it's not the whole big list that we scrolled through. So that is for the students submitting things. Now, feedback types. This is for us when we grade. Now, the feedback comments are a little tiny comment button that will be at the top of your grading sheet, and I'll show you that in a second. This is tricky because it adds a step. If you leave feedback comments there, you have to save the comment and then save changes to the overall grading for it to save. If you just save changes, your comments will go away. So just make sure that if you're doing feedback comments, that you save the comment itself. Annotate PDF is what lets you mark up their submissions. I'll show you that in a second. And then feedback files, this will give you a little text editor where you can upload feedback or type in your feedback, that sort of thing. So with this one, if you type in, great job, make sure you're paying attention to X, Y, and Z for your revision. This one you can just hit save changes and it will save everything. So if you prefer to use this one rather than the feedback comments, that's fine. Offline grading worksheet is actually something that you don't really need to worry about. If you have, say, a Word doc that you want to grade offline with and then just upload it, just use feedback files. Keeps everything nice and simple. Submission settings. Okay, so this is the place where you can decide if they get additional attempts at the assignment, if they have to actually click a submit button. So this is just one extra step for the students that has them actually hit something that says, are you sure you would like to submit? And this is the submission statement. This is the honor code statement. So if you want to put the honor code on your assignments themselves, you just toggle that to yes. Group submission settings, you only need to worry about if you have group set up and if you are having group projects. So I'm going to say yes, we're requiring them to make a submission. This is already toggled to no and you can't change it. So basically this just says there's only going to be one submission per group. And then it asks you which groupings to use. So this is if you already have groups set up. Notifications, it just is asking when to notify students or you and for what. Grade is important. So grade, first of all, we want to know what type of grade we're using. If you're just going for the general point system, you've got your max grade of 100, there's that. You can also grade with scales. And so a scale is something where you will actually say, let's do satisfactory, say this, and it'll give you the options of satisfactory, unsatisfactory, or if you use something else, then it'll give you, so I have down here one that's created for completion grade, and that is something where I just said, did they complete it, yes or no? So they get 100 points if they completed it and 0 if they didn't. So you can use scale grading too. Or you can turn it to none if this is not a graded thing. All right, so graded method, we've gone over this in some of the gradebook and grade features videos, but you can pick simple direct grading, grading guide, or rubric. Simple direct grading is just where you type in whatever feedback you want and type in their score. A grading guide lets you, is like a scaled down rubric where more of the emphasis is on the qualitative than on the numeric score. And then the rubric is your standard rubric where it gives you the different boxes with the qualitative feedback and how many points they're worth. So you can decide on which method you'd like to use for grading. If you have your gradebook broken down into categories, then you can choose those. So some people have a participation category, a homework category, a quiz category, so on and so forth, created in their gradebook. This is where you would tell it where to put things. Grade to pass. So this is if you have a setup where a student, in order to get points at all, has to pass a certain threshold. So let's say that's a 70. So if they get below 70, they don't pass, they need to do it again, or they don't get those points. You can just put in what grade they need to pass. Blind grading asks if you want to, basically if you want to know the student's identity as they're grading. If you toggle this on to yes, and then it will just give you kind of students in a randomized order, and it won't show you their grades until you are done grading. You can also hide the grader identity from students, and so if you are co-teaching and you've split up the grading and you don't necessarily want your students to know who graded what, you can do that. And if you are co-teaching, let's say, and you need, let's say group teaching, let's say there are 5 different teachers for your course, and 3 of them have to grade an assignment before it can go back to the student, you can turn on grade workflow yes. And then if you do have that turned on, you can also say who you want to grade each assignment. So you can assign assignments for grading to specific people. Common module settings just asks if you want to show this on the page, or if you want to have groups. So that's another place where you would need groups. This asks if you want to add any particular restrictions. Usually the answer is no, so you don't really need that. And then completion, you can set certain conditions where you require certain things if you want the students to see that it's completed. And then if you want to add tags to your assignments for any reason, you can do it there. So I'm going to save and display. Since I said that I wanted to use a grading guide, it's taken me to this advanced grading page. And so I can either define one from scratch or create it from an existing template. If I do it from a template, then I can click this, include my own forms, and search. And if I already have, like right here, if I already have a grading guide set up or grading guides set up, then I can just use the forms as a template and it'll add it to that specific assignment. So that is how you add an assignment to your course. I've got group submissions on here, so it's asking, it's asking me to put people in groups. But other than that, my assignment is created, and now when I go back to my home page, it is right here under the major assignments. So that is how you create an assignment in TLearn. If you have any questions or want any help with getting started and creating activities for your class, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me at academictechnology@trinity.edu. Thanks.